In the busy city of Austin, Texas, life of Nora Williams, a 38-year-old homeless woman, it was a constant struggle. Nora, who had lost her job and home years ago due to a string of personal tragedies, survived day after day in the city's alleys and parks. Despite her situation, she never lost hope and kept a close eye on what was happening around her. "I'll still find a way to change my story," she said to herself, as she watched people rushing past on the sidewalk. On a sunny morning, chaos engulfed a busy intersection in the city center. A runaway car, apparently without brakes, invaded the sidewalk. In the midst of the commotion, Nora noticed a boy, approximately 6 years old, standing in the path of the vehicle, paralyzed by fear. Without thinking twice, she ran towards him and pulled him out of danger at the last second. The car scraped by, but both were unharmed. The boy, Henry Carter, was in shock, but soon started crying in Nora's lap. A few minutes later, a well-dressed man came running, visibly desperate. It was Elliot Carter, a successful businessman in Austin and father of Henry. "My God, is he okay?" Elliot asked, as he held his son's face, still scared. Nora, panting, replied, "Yes, but it was close. You need to be more careful with him." Elliot thanked him repeatedly, hugging his son and looking at Nora with a mixture of gratitude and surprise. He realized that she was homeless, something that was evident from her worn clothes and the old backpack at her side. Despite this, his courage was undeniable. "You saved my son's life," he said, his voice breaking. "I can never give back enough." Nora just shrugged. "I did what anyone would do," she replied, although she knew not everyone would have acted so quickly. In the days that followed, Elliot couldn't get Nora out of his mind. The image of her saving Henry haunted him, but it also inspired him. He knew her life wasn't easy and he felt he needed to do something to repay her for what she had done. "She deserves more than a simple thank you," he thought, as he looked at the photo of Henry on his office desk. It was then that he had an idea. Elliot owned an old property in downtown Austin, an abandoned restaurant that he had inherited from his grandfather, but hadn't used in years. The place was in terrible condition, with broken windows and furniture covered in dust, but it was still structurally sound. He decided to offer the space as a temporary shelter for Nora. "It's not much, but at least she'll have a roof over her head," he said to himself, before grabbing his keys and going out in search of her. Finding Nora was not easy. He spent hours walking the streets, asking other homeless people if they had seen her. Finally, he found her sitting on a park bench, reading an old book that seemed to be her only valuable possession. "Nora," he called, approaching carefully. She looked at him, surprised. "You're Henry's father," he said, recognizing him immediately. Elliot nodded and sat down next to her. "I can't get out of my mind what you did for my son," he began. "So I want to offer something that might help." He explained about the abandoned restaurant and handed Nora the keys. "You can use it as shelter for as long as you need. It's not in good condition, but it's better than being here." Nora was silent, holding the keys in her shaking hands. It was the first time in years that someone had offered him a real chance to change. Although grateful, Nora was hesitant. "Why are you doing this for me?" he asked, his voice full of doubt. Elliot answered sincerely, "Because you saved what I love most in this world, and I believe you deserve another chance." These words deeply touched Nora, who decided to accept the gesture, although without great expectations about the future. That night, as she walked to the restaurant for the first time, Nora felt a mixture of fear and hope. The building, although old and worn, seemed to have potential. Maybe this is the start of something, he thought, as he opened the door for the first time and looked at the empty, dark space in front of him. Upon entering the restaurant for the first time, Nora was greeted by a wave of nostalgia and abandonment. The space smelled musty, the walls were covered in dirt, and the tables and chairs were stacked in a corner, as if someone had left in a hurry and never returned. She turned on a flashlight she had brought with her and began to explore the place. Despite its precarious condition, there was something welcoming about the place. "This has history," he thought, as he ran his hand over a worn wooden counter. That night, Nora did her best to settle down. He improvised a bed with some blankets he carried in his backpack and cleaned a small area to make himself a little more comfortable. As he listened to the sounds of the city in the distance, he began to think about how this space could become something more than a temporary shelter. Maybe I can do something here, she muttered to herself, although she didn't yet know exactly what. In the following days, Nora dedicated herself to cleaning the restaurant. She used buckets of water brought from a nearby spring and pieces of cloth to scrub the walls and floor. It was exhausting work, but each clean piece seemed to breathe new life into the place. During the process, he found forgotten objects such as antique silverware, china plates, and even a framed photograph of Elliot's grandfather, smiling alongside restaurant staff in better times. Inspired by the photo, Nora began to imagine what that restaurant might have been like in its glory days. The movement, the smell of food, the laughter of customers, it all seemed so distant but also so possible. If they did it once, why can't I do it again? He thought. This idea planted a seed in his heart, something he hadn't felt in years. Ambition. However, Nora knew she couldn't do everything alone. She started talking to other homeless people and people in the local community, asking for help with small tasks. Some, curious about her determination, agreed to help, while others called her a dreamer. You won't be able to turn this into something useful, they said. But Nora was undeterred. I've already faced the worst that life could offer me, he replied. This is just another challenge. One day, while cleaning the counter, she was surprised by a young woman named Maggie, who lived nearby and had experience as a waitress. Maggie offered her help in exchange for simple meals. I don't have much, but I know how to deal with customers, she said. For Nora, that was a sign that she was on the right path. With Maggie by his side, he felt like he had an ally in his mission. Over time, the restaurant began to take shape. Nora used discarded materials and donations to renovate the space. The chairs were sanded and painted, the tables had new tablecloths, and the walls were decorated with old objects found around the place. Although progress was slow, each small advance brought a sense of accomplishment. This isn't just a place, she would say to Maggie. It's a fresh start. As she worked, Nora began to remember the simple recipes her grandmother used to make. Hot soups, homemade breads, and apple pies. Food has the power to bring people together, he thought. He decided that, if that restaurant had any chance of success, it would be by offering dishes that brought comfort and good memories. She wrote down each recipe in a notebook she found in the restaurant's office, using it as her guide. Nora knew there was still a lot of work ahead of her, but for the first time in years, she felt motivated and full of purpose. Each day at the restaurant was a battle against her own limitations, but also a celebration of her resilience. The place, which previously seemed like a simple temporary opportunity, began to transform into something much bigger. And little did she know that this transformation was just beginning. With the help of Maggie and other community volunteers, Nora's restaurant began to come to life. Each day brought a new challenge, but also a new opportunity to see the space transform. In the mornings, Nora woke up early to plan the day's tasks. She wrote everything down in a notebook she found in the restaurant's office, including the materials she needed, the areas that still needed repairs, and the recipes she wanted to try. The biggest difficulty, however, was obtaining ingredients and equipment. Nora and Maggie improvised with what they had, reusing discarded items and accepting donations from local stores and residents. On a particularly productive day, a local merchant named Mr. Donovan, who owned a kitchenware store, donated pans and cutlery that had been discontinued. That should help you, he said with a smile. Nora thanked him, moved, feeling that people's kindness was helping to support her dream. With the first utensils in hand, Nora began testing her recipes in the restaurant's kitchen. It was an old space with rusty stoves and an oven that only worked half the time, but she did the best she could. Every dish she prepared brought back memories of her childhood, especially her grandmother's recipes. My grandmother said that food is love in the form of a dish, she told Maggie, as they tried a simple but delicious soup. And that's what I want to bring to this place. Rumors about the restaurant began to spread throughout the neighborhood. People passing by saw Nora and her makeshift team working hard and began offering help. One of them was Carlos, a young painter who offered to renovate the restaurant's walls in exchange for meals. "If you give me an apple pie like that, I'll paint the whole place," he joked as he enjoyed a slice. Nora laughed, feeling that the spirit of collaboration was growing. The hard work started to pay off. The walls were painted a warm shade of yellow, the broken windows were replaced, and the space gained a rustic charm that matched the restaurant's history. The wooden counter, which Nora insisted on preserving, has been carefully restored, becoming the heart of the place. "This is where people will feel welcome," she said, as she ran her hand over the smooth, polished surface. With the space taking shape, Nora and Maggie started thinking about how to attract their first customers. "We don't have money for advertising," said Maggie, worried. Nora, however, had an idea. He decided to hold a simple opening, offering free soups and bread to local residents as a thank you for all their support. "If people try what we have to offer, they will come back," said Nora confidently. The inauguration was a success. The restaurant, which Nora called Haven's Kitchen, paying homage to the idea of being a refuge for everyone, was full of curious and hungry people. The simple food, but full of flavor, won over visitors. Many praised the welcoming atmosphere and promised to return. For Nora, that day was proof that her dream was coming true. Although exhausted, Nora felt a joy she hadn't felt in years. She knew the work was just beginning, but the opening gave her the confidence to continue. "This place is more than a restaurant," she told Maggie, as they closed the doors at the end of the night. "It's a second chance, for me and for everyone who comes here." With the success of the inauguration, the Haven's Kitchen began to attract more and more customers. At first, it was mainly neighborhood residents, curious to try the soups and pies they had heard about. But soon word about the restaurant spread, and people from other parts of Austin started showing up. "I heard you guys have the best apple pie in town," said a new customer, as he settled in at one of the renovated tables. Nora, who now felt more confident in the kitchen, expanded the menu based on her grandmother's recipes. In addition to soups and pies, she began serving homemade breads, stews, and simple but delicious salads. "It's not about luxury," she said. "It's about comfort." Nora's philosophy resonated with customers, who returned not just for the food, but also for the welcoming atmosphere. As the movement increased, Nora realized she needed more help. She hired Sarah, a young single mother who was looking for work to support her young daughter. Sarah had experience as a waitress and quickly became a key part of the team. "This place has something special," she told Nora during a shift. "It's more than a restaurant. It's like a family." As the restaurant prospered, Nora began investing some of the profits into improvements. With Carlos' help, he installed new light fixtures that gave the space warm, inviting lighting. He also purchased a new oven, which expanded the menu even further. Each improvement was a celebration of the hard work and dedication of everyone involved. Diners began sharing their experiences at Haven's Kitchen on social media, posting photos of the dishes and praising the atmosphere. One of these posts caught the attention of an influential Austin food blogger who decided to visit the restaurant. His review, published days later, was full of praise. Haven's Kitchen is not just a restaurant. It's a story of resilience, humanity, and food made with love, he wrote. The review brought a flood of new customers, which represented both a blessing and a challenge. Nora had to quickly adjust the restaurant's operation to handle the growing demand. She hired 2 more employees and began organizing shifts more efficiently. "I never imagined we would be so busy," she said to Maggie during a break. "But it shows we are doing something right." Despite the growth, Nora was keen to maintain the restaurant's welcoming spirit. She knew many of the customers by name and made a point of greeting them personally. For her, Haven's Kitchen wasn't just a business. It was a reflection of his journey and his determination to overcome adversity. Meanwhile, Elliot Carter, who had given Nora the keys to the restaurant months earlier, had no idea how the place had transformed. He was busy with his company and rarely passed by the area where the restaurant was located. However, that was about to change. An unexpected visit to Haven's Kitchen would leave him completely surprised and deeply impacted by what Nora had created. Nora, unaware of what was coming, was still focused on her work. For her, Every day at the restaurant was an opportunity to show that, with determination and support, any obstacle could be overcome. This place gave me a new life, I thought, as I prepared another batch of pies. And little did she know that this new life was about to intersect with Elliot's again, in a way no one could have predicted. Months after handing over the restaurant keys to Nora, Elliot Carter experienced a particularly stressful day at his company. An important meeting had ended in arguments, and he felt the need to leave the office to clear his mind. He decided to drive aimlessly through the streets of Austin, absorbing the city's energy and reflecting on his life. As he crossed a street he hadn't visited in years, something caught his attention. A busy restaurant, with smiling customers coming and going, and a delicious aroma filling the air. The sign at the entrance said, Haven's Kitchen, but what really caught his attention was Nora's name written on a small welcome board. Elliot was intrigued. Could it be the same Nora? He decided to park the car and investigate. Upon entering the restaurant, you were immediately greeted by a warm atmosphere. The sound of laughter, the smell of home-cooked food, and the welcoming look of the space left him impressed. This can't be the same place, he thought, as he looked around, trying to recognize the abandoned property he had given away months ago. Nora was at the counter, overseeing orders and helping the staff. When he looked up and saw Elliot, his surprised expression was evident. "Mr. Carter?" he asked, approaching him. Elliot was speechless for a moment, watching how radiant and confident Nora looked. "I can't believe it," he said finally. "Is this the same restaurant I gave you?" Nora smiled, with a mixture of pride and shyness. "And yes, well, not exactly the same. We made some improvements." Elliot asked for a table and, while he waited, he observed everything around him. Every detail of the restaurant seemed carefully thought out, from the rustic decor to the welcoming smiles of the staff. He listened to the comments from the customers around him, all praising the food and the atmosphere. When his plate arrived, hot soup and a slice of apple pie, Elliot felt a lump in his throat. It wasn't just delicious. It was a representation of Nora's hard work and determination. After finishing his meal, Elliot asked to talk to Nora again. "I need to know how you managed to turn this around," he said, still in disbelief. Nora sat at the table with him, reluctant at first, but eventually told her story. He talked about the long nights cleaning the space, the difficulties in obtaining ingredients, and the moments when he almost gave up. But she also spoke about the help she received from the community and how each small gesture motivated her to continue. Elliot was deeply moved by the story. He realized that the gesture he had made months ago, something he considered a simple act of gratitude, had triggered an extraordinary transformation. "You did something that many wouldn't have the courage to do," he said. "It turned an opportunity into a legacy." Nora humbly replied, "I just wanted a chance to start over, and this place gave me that." As they talked, Maggie approached and greeted Elliot. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you," she said. "Nora talks a lot about what you did for her." Elliot was surprised to realize that his action had impacted not only Nora's life, but also so many other people. "This place is more than a restaurant," continued Maggie. "It's a symbol of hope for all of us." Leaving the restaurant that night, Elliot felt renewed. He realized that in the hustle and bustle of his corporate life, he had lost sight of the true meaning of success. For him, Haven's Kitchen was not only an example of overcoming, but also a reminder that small actions can generate extraordinary changes. He decided he couldn't just let this go. "I wanted to be part of this journey in some way." After his visit to Haven's Kitchen, Elliot couldn't stop thinking about the restaurant and the impact Nora had created. In the following days, he visited the place again, not only to enjoy the food, but also to observe how everything worked. He was impressed by the organization, the dedication of the team, and the positive energy that permeated the space. "You've built something really special here," he told Nora during one such visit. Nora, who was already beginning to trust Elliot more, felt comfortable sharing some of the difficulties she still faced. Although the restaurant was thriving, she had financial limitations to expand the business and further improve the space. "There are days when I stay up late thinking about how we are going to pay our suppliers," she confessed. Elliot listened intently, feeling a growing desire to help. After reflecting on how he could contribute, Elliot made a proposal. "Nora, you've turned this place into something incredible, but I believe we can take this even further," he said. "What if we work together? I can invest in Haven's Kitchen and help expand what you've already built." Nora was surprised, but also cautious. "I don't want to lose what this place represents," she said. Elliot assured, "I don't want to change anything. I just want to help you reach the full potential this restaurant has." They spent weeks discussing the details of the partnership. Nora made it clear that the restaurant's welcoming, community spirit was non-negotiable. "This place isn't just a business," she explained. "It's a refuge for those in need, just like it was for me." Elliot respected his vision and promised that any expansion would be done in a way that preserved the essence of Haven's Kitchen. With the deal in place, Elliot began using his business experience to help Nora improve the restaurant's operation. He brought in experts to optimize kitchen processes and helped negotiate better contracts with suppliers. Furthermore, he suggested opening a small space attached to the restaurant, where Nora could sell homemade products, such as jams and bread, made with her grandmother's recipes. The partnership brought new challenges, but also new opportunities. With Elliot's investment, Nora was able to hire more employees, which lightened Maggie and Sarah's workload. The restaurant, now more efficient, began to attract even more customers. Additionally, the new attached store became an immediate success, with many customers purchasing products to take home. Despite the growth, Nora made a point of maintaining a constant presence at the restaurant. "I can't forget where I came from," she said. Elliot, who observed her dedication, increasingly admired her resilience. "You are the heart of this place," he said, during a conversation, "and that will never change." An emotional Nora realized that she had found not only a business partner, but also an ally who believed in her vision. As Haven's Kitchen continued to grow, Nora and Elliot began thinking of ways to give back to the community that supported them. They decided to create a program called Open Table, where, once a week, the restaurant would offer free meals to people in vulnerable situations. "It's a way of giving back everything we've received," explained Nora. The program was a success, attracting volunteers and donors who wanted to help. With each new step, Nora felt like she was not only transforming her own life, but also impacting the lives of many others. And although Elliot had been the catalyst for this journey, she knew it was her determination and faith in the future that continued to drive Haven's Kitchen forward. For both of them, that restaurant had become more than a physical space. It was a symbol of infinite possibilities. Haven's Kitchen, which began as a getaway for Nora, had now become a popular Austin hangout, known not only for its delicious food but also the inspiring story behind it. The program Open Table, started by Nora and Elliot, gained prominence in the community and soon caught the attention of local media. Newspapers and TV stations began sharing Nora's journey, emphasizing her determination and unexpected partnership with Elliot. A special report in the newspaper Austin Chronicle brought even more visibility to the restaurant. The article, titled From Despair to Hope, The Transformation of Haven's Kitchen, narrated how Nora overcame adversity and created something extraordinary from an abandoned restaurant. The article included moving testimonials from customers and employees, like Maggie, who said, "Working here changed my life. Nora is the most inspiring leader I have ever met." With the repercussions, Nora began to receive invitations to participate in events and lectures on resilience and entrepreneurship. Although initially reluctant to leave the restaurant, she realized that sharing her story could inspire others to face their own challenges. At her first talk, organized by a local university, Nora took to the stage nervously, but soon found confidence as she shared how each small step led her to transform her life. As Nora shared her story, Haven's Kitchen began attracting visitors from outside of Austin. Tourists and even digital influencers visited the restaurant to try the food and see the space that symbolized overcoming and humanity. One of these influencers, with millions of followers, made a video about his visit, praising the food and welcoming atmosphere. The video went viral, bringing a new wave of customers and opportunities. With the restaurant busier than ever, Nora had to adapt to the new demands. Elliot suggested hiring an operations manager to help coordinate activities, allowing Nora more time to focus on leading the team and expanding her ideas. After a careful search, they hired James Parker, an experienced professional passionate about community initiatives. "I don't just want to manage a restaurant," he said during the interview. "I want to be part of something that impacts lives." James brought new ideas to optimize operations, but always with respect to Nora's original vision. He introduced an online reservation system, which helped manage customer flow and suggested partnerships with local farms to ensure fresh, high-quality ingredients. Under his leadership, Haven's Kitchen has become even more efficient, without losing the human touch that made it special. With the restaurant growing steadily, Nora and Elliot decided to expand the program Open Table. They began organizing larger events, including charity dinners to raise funds for struggling families. These events not only strengthened community bonds but also brought more attention to the work they were doing. "This place is more than food," said Nora during one of these events. "It's about creating connections and offering hope." As the success continued, Nora began to realize the impact her story had on others. He received letters and messages from people who said they had found inspiration in his career. One of these messages came from a young woman named Emily, who lived on the streets, but dreamed of opening his own bakery. An emotional Nora invited Emily to visit Haven's Kitchen, offering advice and encouragement. "If I can do it, so can you," she said. While Haven's Kitchen's success was undeniable, Nora knew that no venture was without its challenges. With the increase in popularity came problems such as tight deadlines, insufficient stock, and even criticism from customers who felt that the restaurant had lost its essence due to growth. Nora, always focused on her mission, brought her team together to discuss how they could maintain a balance between commercial success and the values that define the restaurant. "We can't forget why we started this," she said during a meeting with Maggie, James, and Elliot. "Haven's Kitchen has always been about people, not numbers." The team agreed, but also highlighted the need to find practical solutions to new challenges. With Elliot's support, they implemented more robust training for employees, emphasizing the importance of warm, personalized service. Another challenge came in the form of online reviews, some of which claimed the restaurant was becoming too commercial. Nora, initially hurt, decided to face the situation head-on. She recorded a heartfelt video, explaining her journey and reaffirming her commitment to the community. "I never started this restaurant to gain fame or fortune," she said in the video. "I started because I needed a new chance. And I want this place to continue to be a symbol of second chances for everyone." The video was widely shared, receiving support from loyal customers and even people who had never visited the restaurant. Nora's transparency gained even more respect, and many customers returned, reaffirming their trust in Haven's Kitchen. "You're not just making food," one customer commented on one post. "You are making history." While dealing with the restaurant's challenges, Nora also faced a personal dilemma. Expanding the business was consuming much of her time, leaving her little space to reflect on her own needs and dreams. During a conversation with Elliot, she confessed, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm forgetting who I was before all this." Elliot, with his life experience, responded, "You're not forgetting, Nora. It's evolving. But never forget what makes you who you are." With these words in mind, Nora decided to take more time for herself. She started writing in a journal again, something she did before her life changed, and started planning little breaks with her team. "If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of the restaurant," she said, encouraging everyone to balance work and life. At the same time, Nora continued to expand her impact on the community. Inspired by Emily's story, she decided to launch a training program for homeless people who want to learn culinary skills. With support from Elliot and James, they created a space in the restaurant for weekly workshops where participants could learn to cook and even receive basic certifications. The program was an immediate success. Many of the participants found jobs at other restaurants or became part of the Haven's Kitchen team. For Nora, seeing these transformations was one of the greatest rewards of her journey. "This is what it means to give back," she said during the graduation of the program's first class. As the restaurant faced and overcame challenges, Nora continued to be a source of inspiration to everyone around her. And although he knew there was still a lot to do, he felt more confident than ever that Haven's Kitchen was more than a restaurant. It was a movement, a symbol of hope and proof that determination and support can transform lives. The success of Haven's Kitchen and Nora's inspiring story began to transcend Austin's borders, gaining recognition across the country. Renowned magazines like Forbes and Time published articles detailing the restaurant's transformation and the impact it was having on the community. The reports emphasized how Nora had overcome unimaginable odds to build something extraordinary, while also highlighting her partnership with Elliot and the social programs they had created together. A documentary titled A Second Chance, the story of Nora Williams, was released on a popular streaming channel, attracting millions of viewers. The film showed from the moment Nora received the keys to the restaurant until the glory days of Haven's Kitchen. It included testimonials from customers, employees, and even people who participated in training programs. "She's not just changing lives," said one participant. "She's creating a movement." With her increasing visibility, Nora began to receive invitations to important events, including a talk at the TEDx Austin, where he talked about resilience and the power of second chances. "I'm not a traditional businesswoman," she said on stage, emotion in her voice. "I'm just someone who decided not to give up, even when it felt like the world had given up on me." His talk received a standing ovation, and the video was shared millions of times on social media. While recognition brought new opportunities, it also increased responsibilities. Nora and Elliot needed to ensure that Haven's Kitchen maintained its essence, even as its popularity grew. "The last thing we want is for this to become just another restaurant," Nora said during a staff meeting. Elliot agreed. "We need to remember that this place was born from the heart, and that's how it should stay." The program Open Table has expanded to other Texas cities, with local restaurants joining the initiative to offer free meals to vulnerable people. Nora frequently visited these new partners, sharing her experience and encouraging them to embrace the values that made Haven's Kitchen a success. "It's not just about serving food," she said. "It's about creating a space where people feel valued." Meanwhile, Nora began working on a book about her journey. Entitled From the Streets to the Table, a story of hope and resilience, the book combined memories of his life with recipes that had shaped the restaurant's menu. She included chapters about her childhood, the challenges she faced as a homeless person, and the support she received from the community to build something bigger than herself. The book became a bestseller even before its release, with thousands of pre-orders. During an interview on a national TV program, the presenter asked Nora what the secret to her success was. She smiled and replied, "There is no secret. All I did was believe that even when everything seems lost, there is always a way to start over. And no one achieves this alone. I've had help from amazing people, and now I want to be that help for others." Although she was receiving a lot of attention, Nora made a point of staying connected to the day-to-day running of the restaurant. She still helped in the kitchen, talked to customers, and attended weekly team meetings. "This place is my root," she said. "This is where it all started. And this is where I feel at home." At the end of a particularly busy year, Nora received exciting news. Haven's Kitchen would be recognized by the United States Chamber of Commerce with the Award of Community Enterprise of the Year. During the ceremony, Nora took the stage to receive the award alongside Elliot, Maggie, and James. "This award is not just mine," she said. "It belongs to everyone who believed that, with determination and compassion, we can transform lives." As the ceremony ended, Nora looked at her team and the audience with a smile that mixed pride and gratitude. The restaurant had become so much more than she ever imagined, and she knew there was so much more to come. After years of dedication, hard work, and overcoming, Haven's Kitchen has established itself as an example of resilience and social impact. Nora, now a nationally known figure, began planning the next steps to expand her mission. She and Elliot decided to create a non-profit organization called Haven's Kitchen Foundation, with the aim of supporting community initiatives across the country. The foundation offered training, microcredits, and partnerships for people who, like Nora, needed a second chance. "We want to bring the spirit of Haven's Kitchen to other communities," Elliot said during the groundbreaking ceremony. Nora, beside him, added, "This is not about opening restaurants. It's about opening doors." While working at the foundation, Nora also continued to be involved in the day-to-day running of the restaurant. She and her team created new programs, including a meal suspension system where customers could pay for meals in advance for people in need. The program was widely adopted, strengthening the bond between the restaurant and the community. Sophie, a young woman who had graduated from the restaurant's training program, was promoted to assistant manager. Nora was thrilled to see how Sophie had grown and become a role model for the other participants. "You are proof that this program works," said Nora, congratulating her. Sophie replied, "This is all thanks to you, Nora. You showed me that it is possible to start over." Meanwhile, Elliot continued to support Nora in all aspects of the restaurant and the foundation. He often mentioned how his decision to hand over the keys to that abandoned restaurant had been one of the most important moments of his life. "I thought I was helping you," he said during one conversation, "but actually you helped me. Seeing what you built gave me a new purpose." At a special event organized by Haven's Kitchen, Nora brought together customers, employees, and partners to celebrate the restaurant's 5th anniversary. During her speech, she recalled the early days, when the place was just an abandoned space full of dust. "I didn't know what the future held," she said, with tears in her eyes. "But I knew I had to try, and thanks to all of you, this place has become so much more than I could have imagined." The celebration ended with a community dinner in the style of the program Open Table, reinforcing the idea that Haven's Kitchen was more than a business. It was a home for everyone. As she walked through the restaurant that night, Nora felt a deep sense of gratitude for everything she had accomplished. In the following years, Haven's Kitchen continued to grow, opening branches in other cities and expanding the impact of its social programs. Nora remained at the center of it all, leading with her heart and inspiring others to believe in their own potential. When Nora looked to the future, she knew there was still a lot to do. But for her, each challenge was an opportunity to show that determination and compassion can transform any obstacle into a new possibility. Haven's Kitchen was more than a restaurant. It was proof that second chances don't just change lives, they create legacies.